Hi, I'm Shivam,
Hi, I'm Izzy,
and this is PhoenixChat.
where one of us can read.
Which one?
You
find
find
out. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of PhoenixChat. And today's a real fun one because we're going to get into the Eldritch Horror arc. Spooky things happening all around. Oh man.
Too many spooks. Too many spooks.
Oh
Fucking
my goodness.
Eye shits, man.
Yeah. My favorite part about these these two sessions was it was literally the weekend before Valentine's Day, and like the extremely spooky part happened on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so just really getting into the holiday spirit by just horrifying you guys. But from last time though, Juliet did a little bit of a fuck up.
A little?
Kind of taunted a hag into attacking her and the rest of the party. Just a little
I
bit.
did not taunt. I was just nosy.
You were
There's
just
a
nosy,
difference.
and you walked right up to the hag and said, "Holy shit, you're old." No big deal. No big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah, no. So hag chased you guys, fired off a bolt of a lightning bolt at you guys. Thankfully though, since Juliet didn't taunt the hag didn't target you specifically, but you were still knocked out by the lightning bolt. Everyone else got really hurt from it. You guys sped off into the distance. The hag choosing not to follow up again. You guys.
Yep.
Yeah. So Boondock reses Juliet. Juliet's like, yeah, sorry guys.
Maybe.
Maybe. Party sighs and decides to take a long rest, so, you know, some of you can heal off your grievous injuries. Oh my god. Boondock decides to use the time to use his Find Familiar scroll. And they use the scroll, manage to figure out how it works, and they kind of cast it into the fire as the fire is beginning to like go into this amorphous shape. And they realize, oh, they need to choose a form for their familiar. And so Boondock, just as proud as can be, just says, "Give me a dog." As the fire shifts, almost just like confused, because for some reason on the Find Familiar list, there isn't actually like a dog stat block.
There's not?
Because like there isn't, yeah.
Huh.
Heck, I think cat's on there, but dog isn't.
That doesn't make any sense, but okay.
Yeah, no, it's super weird. And so like the form kind of like shifts a little bit confused before. I think at first we decided that it was a ferret. As it pops out this weird elongated creature. As Boondock picks it up underneath the arms and just gives him a very blank expression. Yeah, and so Hops says, "Oh, the dog's long. It's a hot dog." So Boondock decides to name his new dog Frankfurter. Frank for short.
Frank for short.
That was really cute. Yeah. I think we ended up retconning that though. So we switched it from a ferret to a very close relative of the ferret. We switched the animal to a baby Wolverine.
You know, because why not?
Yeah. Now, if you actually look at like a baby Wolverine though, they kind of look like round German shepherds. So like it's actually kind of easy to like mistake them for dogs. The thing is though, as they grow up, they just become more like bear shaped instead of dog shaped. So Boondock now has a baby Wolverine named Frank, and has immediately forgotten about that familiar.
I mean, we've used him a couple times.
Yes, but for the most part, it's very easy to forget Frank's always there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, so Morgan also got a gauntlet that he attuned to, and apparently the gauntlet's effect was that there was 3 charges of it, and he could expend a charge of the gauntlet to either turn a roll into a nat 20 or a nat 1. And this is not just his rolls, but also his allies and enemies. And it also had a hidden effect that he didn't know about, because that effect is pretty strong. But we'll get to that later. Yeah, and then Juliet took a tarot card from the hag, or tarot deck from the hag.
I bought the tarot deck.
Oh, you bought the deck, but if you want to explain what it did.
So basically, Shivam and I were like, I was talking with him about wanting a tarot deck, and he's like, oh god, I gotta remember all the major arcana. And I was like, I have many tarot decks that I could just use myself, and I could just draw, you know, just for shits and giggles, and we could just kind of roll from it for there. So I pulled out... Quit dying!
Stop. I'm sorry.
Sorry. So basically, I pulled out what did I pull out? The Nine of Swords reversed? Or upright? Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And it meant stagnation and burnout, and I was like, wow, yikes, okay, we're all gonna die. I'm not surprised. And we started heading out. And we finally get to, like, this big open area with, like, and you described it like light, fluffy, freshly fallen snow, and I was like, hell no. Something's up. So I'm
like, guys, it's just a blank area of snow. What's so suspicious about it?
Dude, everything's suspicious, okay?
Oh, man.
Everything. Don't trust anyone. Anyway, so I put Hopscotch on my shoulders, and I gave her a couple of rocks, and her and I, like, ventured out and was, like, tossing rocks to make sure there was no, like, holes or anything that we could fall into. Boondock, I think, was lifting the not horses, what are they?
The Saigas, but
the
yes.
Saigas.
Yeah. Essen tried to levitate the cart to make it lighter, but Boondock was like, before that, just immediately like, what if I just lift the cart with my massive strength score? And I'm like, I don't think you can quite do that. I'm like, okay, what if I just like drag the cart then? I'm like, aren't the fucking Saigas already doing that? So Boondock fucking saddles up to two very confused Saigas and begins to also pull the cart with them. And I'm like, why are you doing this? And then Boondock's player's like, shut up, let me use my 19 strength score.
Yeah. Luckily, I'm so glad that I did this, because as Hops and I were tossing rocks, Hops managed to toss a rock like super far left or something, and a cavern like the snow like collapsed in, and we looked in, and there is a mama yeti and a baby yeti just napping, and I was like, holy shit, we avoided that. Woo.
Oh man.
Yeah, so we evaded 2 traps that day from Shivam's mind.
Shame, shame, shame. But yeah, no, you guys completely skirted around that encounter. As I was left fucking like, wringing my DM hands, I'll get you next time, Socrates.
God.
Oh god. Continue onwards. Is that not how you DM, just wringing your hands like, yes, yes, fall into my trap, minions?
No, they just normally, like, psych themselves out and then fall into my trap, and I'm like, well, nice.
Yeah, no.
No, I lie.
Just like hunched over my computer, fucking like
petting Yuki on your lap.
Yeah, stroking my curly mustache.
Anyway, so we took watches that night, which Shivam had nothing planned for, so we just got to, you know, do whatever we wanted.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You guys still, like, so I said, like, you guys, like, okay, so we need to make some perception checks. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna tell you guys right now, there's nothing really, like, out there. You guys need to make perception checks. I don't have anything planned that's gonna attack you in the night. But then you guys were like, no, I'm gonna make perception checks anyways. What does a 17 get me? So
you see a branch.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I gave them I think on like high perception checks, I gave you guys the information I was going to give you guys anyways, which was, oh, there's going to be a blizzard tomorrow, as you kind of look at the weather patterns, and also in the distance, you guys can see that there's like a cave in the distance, which, you know, might be a good place to wait out the storm if you get caught in it. But yeah, no, then the long rest happened, and first watch was Essen and Morgan. And I believe at first, actually, Essen started to kind of talking about his relationship with Juliet, and kind of just like, yeah, the whole bit where he's still trying to figure like the relationship out, as well as just like asking Morgan about his guns and like how he makes all these devices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the two of them have like a nice little conversation about that, and they decide to pool their resources together to make a compass. And so yeah, no, they do the trick with like the magnetized metal and a piece of cork and water. And yeah, they now make a compass, and I felt really bad about that because like, you guys almost definitely have compasses in your packs. Like, I'm fairly certain at least one of you should have an actual compass. But they both seem so proud of making their own compass that I'm like, yeah, nope, you did it. You've done a good thing.
You did it. Good job, everyone. You're winning, son. Like.
Yeah. And the next, if you want to explain this part, Boondock and Julia had a nice little talk.
So, okay, so Boondock and Juliet don't exactly see eye to eye, obviously. Yeah. They're kind of two ends of a spectrum here. But Juliet kind of asked Boondock, because they just left Hope's Landing, and she was like, hey, do you ever get homesick? Like, what do you do? And he's like, what? and I was like, you know what? Never mind. And he's like, no. Why did you run away? And I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna bring it up now. So I made sure, I thought everyone was fucking sleeping. I thought. And I was like, well, I ran away because my mom was a bitch. Like, she made me do things I didn't want to do. Like, she'd never let me live. Like, I never got to do anything I really wanted to. And I left because, like, it was just, I was trapped there, and I wanted freedom. And he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. I think you also explained a lot about your father, too, which is why the homesick part. Yeah, if you want to explain more about your relationship with your father.
Yeah, so my mom, not so good. My dad, however, he's the only reason why I, like, was super hesitant about leaving, because, like, in her hometown, it's a very matriarchy society, so the women are in charge, the men aren't. So she was worried that maybe her dad would be dead at this point, or he was just gravely injured. Like, she just misses her dad because all of her good memories of that place is from her dad. And seeing the interaction between Mom Boondock and Boondock, she, like, you know, saw that connection and was like, how do you feel whenever you have to leave your mom? Or, like, when you miss your mom, what do you do? Which, Boondock didn't really have an answer for that, because I don't think Boondock's ventured too far away from Hope's Landing, but, you know, always comes back eventually.
Yeah, this is definitely his first journey, like, real far, real long away from home. And so, like, they kind of explained, like, yeah, no, like, I mean, Ma's always kind of been, like, a little bit of, like, just something extra. Like, they always had their duties and stuff like that, but, like, they could always just come back home. And so, like, you know, the homesick was never too often, because they always just felt like, well, I can always just come back home whenever I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so, that was a very depressing talk, and, I believe you finished it off with just, like, a nice little family bonding moment of just, like, that human connection of, just holding Boondock's hand for a little bit, as Boondock kind of promised you, like, well, I mean, we're friends now, so, like, doesn't matter where or when you need help with your mom, like, we're gonna help you with that.
I was gonna say, Boondock offered to help kick my mom's ass, and I was like, thanks, Boondock. That means a lot.
Yes.
And then, the next shift was supposed to start, which was Boondock and Hops, and as I went to go wake up Hops was already awake this whole time. And I was like, oh shit!
Yeah.
But all Hops said was, it's okay, I love you, and I cried. I was like, ah!
Yeah. Hops just walked over and gave you both a hug, and just like, ah!
All of the sads. And I was like, thank you, you small baby. And then Hops fell asleep on her watch. And I was like, you know what? Mood.
Yeah. As Hops fell asleep, though, Boondock just like took the watch and kind of looked around for something, and decided to scrounge around for anything that Hops might be interested in. As they found a playing card, as it might have been one from like the card game you guys were playing before you took your long rest, and so they decide to wake Hops up in the morning as soon as the sunrise, and they decided to put the ace up their sleeve, and so they woke Hops up with a shitty grin as they said, "Hey Hops, got an ace up my sleeve for you," as they pull the ace out, just like Hops did not really get the joke or like the phrase, but she was very happy to receive the card as she popped it in her mouth. But then Boondock felt something slimy in their sleeve, as they realized that as soon as the ace left both of their sight, it reappears in their sleeve. As Boondock, kind of horrified, pulls out now a very slimy, saliva-colored ace of spades from their sleeve. And so, as they so the item was it was literally called the ace up your sleeve, and it's supposed to be just like this dumb, useless item. If you put it up your sleeve, you can always pull it out of your sleeve as soon as it like disappears out of everyone's sight. And so Boondock, kind of horrified by this, decides to pop it into Hops' sleeve and just try to forget about this whole experience.
Yeah.
It was so great because Boondock decided to put the card up their sleeve without any sort of prompting from me. All I said was it was just a playing card, and they're like, "Of course, it's an ace up my sleeve, haha! This will be funny."
I mean, it was.
Oh my god, that was great.
It was.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the morning happens. The plot blizzard is becoming a problem, and we're like, "Hey, there's a cave over there. Let's go." And so I kind of delegated this. So I was like, "Okay, so Hops, Boondock, and Morgan go inside the cave and start setting up camp. Essen and I are gonna go gather firewood." Well, as Essen and I leave and Boondock starts setting up, Morgan and Hops decide, "Oh, hey, let's go explore the cave." And I'm like, "Oh my fucking god, we're all gonna die."
You know, you looked at like the mouth of the cave. Like the mouth of the cave is totally fine, but you can't really see like beyond like the darkness. You'd have to kind of go like exploring to see if it's safe in there or not. And so like but you guys were like, okay, we'll just take a long rest here. We won't go exploring into like farther back there, and we'll just wait out the blizzard here. As like it was by the time you guys got to the cave, it was beginning to approach night again. And so, but Hops and Morgan decided to go exploring. Hops turned on her cheek lights as Morgan kind of picked her up like a flashlight.
Yep.
And they continued onwards. And so Morgan said that he was just going to keep going until he couldn't see the party anymore. And so, as they kept going down like this long hallway, it eventually like forked to the right. And as it forked to the right, they could see something shiny in the distance. But, like, in order to see what the shiny thing was, and what was reflecting the light that Hops was emitting from her mouth, they would need to kind of get a little bit closer to see what it actually is. And so, Hops wanted to kind of squirm out of Morgan's grasp and, like, run towards it, but Morgan managed to keep a hold on her as Morgan dragged both of them back to the camp. And said, like, "Hey, Juliet, there's a weird shiny thing off in the back of that cave over there. Should we go check it out?" And I think you were immediately like, "Fuck no, we aren't."
Yeah, I'm deadass was like, "No, this is just some fucking ploy. We're all gonna die. No fucking thank you. I almost died from a hag. I think we're good."
Yeah, so you were just like, okay, good idea now. What if we just, like, we'll just wait in the mouth of the cave, just wait for the blizzard to pass, everything will be fine. And so you guys took a long rest. And Juliet and Essen were the first watch. And so, of course, I had you guys make perception checks, and you guys made your perception checks. Juliet rolled high. And from the darkness in the cave, Juliet could eventually see two pairs of eyes that were staring at her.
Fucking eye shits. And I was like, ooh! Yeah. Like, I was so fucking suspicious this whole time, because we avoided a hag, we avoided yetis, now we have this. I'm like, bro, this is like... No. So I like held onto my sword, and I was just, because they didn't make a move, they were just watching, and I was like, okay. So I like moved my head back and forth to see if like they were just watching us or just me, and they were just watching me. And I'm like, okay, that's fucking weird. I was like, Essen, because I think Essen rolled super fucking low. And he's like, what? And I was like, do you see those things over there? And he's like, I don't see fucking anything. And I was like, oh shit, okay, so it's like they're ghosties or some shit, or like I don't know.
Yep.
So I get up and I'm like, okay, follow me. And he brings his gun because if he shoots it, it's obviously gonna be really fucking loud because it's a cave, so it can warn the others. So I bring my sword. He brings his gun. And I'm like, all right, stay like behind me because I don't want to freak him out. So I go up to them, and I speak in common at first. I'm like, who are you? And then he's like, the Inari woman approaches. In Sylvan. I'm like, oh, okay, so they're like fucking berries or some shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the weird eyes are just kind of like twisting around in the darkness. You can see like if you can't quite see their heads, but just from like the eyes and how they're moving, it looks like this creature like twists its head around 180 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And they start talking to you as you kind of like start to say, well, what are you and why are you guys looking at us? As the weird eye guys just kind of like say like, such an interesting question, but one we don't remember. We are afraid that at one point we did know what we were, but it's been so long, and we've lost all sight of who we are now. And
basically,
so,
they were super sus and talked in riddles, and it was pissing me off.
Yeah, and then you asked the real kicker question: what do you guys want? And the eye guys stared right at you as they said, "What we want is out of the question at this point, but it's such a shame. How many people did you bring here, Inari?" As Juliet just like, well, why the hell do you want to know that?
Dude, I was so ready to kill them right then and there when they asked me that. I'm like, oh shit, this is where it starts.
Yeah, as the eye guys then looked directly at you, and with all the menace they could muster, they said, "You and your friends are already dead, and you don't even know it." And at that point, Juliet freaked out, like, just like screaming at Essen, like, fire the gun, fire the gun, fire the fucking gun! As soon as Essen fired the gun, though, there was the muzzle flash. It, like, lights up the cave. But then, as soon as, like, the muzzle flash fades, you guys couldn't see the eye guys anymore.
Yep. And at that point, I ran the fuck
yeah.
back. I was like, alright, we need to go. Let's go right now. I didn't even answer them. I was like so fucking panicked. And I was like, okay, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, don't fucking worry about it. Just fucking let's go.
Yep. And at this point, like, you guys look at like the exit of the cave as you realize the blizzard has picked up to a violent degree. It's just an absolute sheet of snow that is like blustering outside. And so I believe Juliet took your kunai and you poked it out into the blizzard, and it came back just sheeted in ice. And so I just straight up told you, like, yeah, no, at this point you can realize that, like, if you decide to leave this cave, you will die.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you guys realized, we're stuck in the plot blizzard.
Yes, we are stuck in the plot blizzard. But as I was explaining what was going on, and I was like trying to tell them, like, look, this is not okay, we need to go, we need to leave, like, I don't like this. As I was explaining and we were kind of arguing about what to do, fucking Hops decides to yeet herself down the cave and go to the shiny thing she saw at the end of the corridor. And we were like, fuck!
And here's the thing, so because like everyone was basically kind of yelling at each other, like Hops just didn't like all the yelling and like screaming that was going on, and so she decided like, well, I'm gonna fix things my own way. And so she decided, I'm just gonna run down the cave and then see what I can find, and I'll fix things, because she doesn't like people screaming. So Boondock can barely read the sign, but he kind of looks at it and just says, pull the lever. And Hops is like, oh, we're pulling the lever? Boondock's immediately like, no, wait, I'm holding Hops, though, so everything's fine. She can't move or anything like that. And so I'm like, yeah, no, she can't move her arms, but she does have a prehensile tongue she can use to pull the lever. And so Hops reaches out her tongue, pulls the lever, and a fucking trap door opens with this vacuum effect that starts to pull everyone in. Everyone makes strength saving throws, and Julia and Morgan fail their strength saves. And Morgan, though, uses a new gauntlet to change Juliet's failed strength saving throw into a nat 20. So only Morgan falls in. So the party's fucking, like, shook as Morgan falls into this void. But then they hear Morgan just kind of saying, "Wee," as he kind of explains, like, "There's an ice slide down here."
Yeah, and we're like, oh shit, we need to go after him. We can't let him go down alone. So I went in first, then it was Essen, and then Boondocks was holding on to Hops, as Hops' tongue was still around the lever, and he was like, should we go down there?
Yeah.
And the girl who plays Hops gets so into the role, and like she was sticking her tongue out while she talked, and she was like, yeah, I think we should go.
That was really good. Yeah, and so like Boondocks, I can't hear you, Hops, if you're when you're talking with your tongue out, and Hops is just like, well, I think we could probably go down there. So fucking funny. And so like Boondocks eventually like, Hops, I need you to put your tongue off the lever there, and Hops is like, I said I think we should follow them. And then Hops says, because I've taken my tongue off, we both fall down the hole. Oh god, it was great. Everyone slides down the crazy slide through a bunch of like weird loop-de-loops and spirals. And as they fall down like the end of the slide, they all kind of plop down into some snow and have to kind of like dig themselves out a little bit. Hops turns on her cheek lights and kind of looks around the room as everyone else is still kind of like getting to their senses, trying to figure out what the hell this place is. It's a very small, cramped room. There's like one tiny hallway leading out of it, and there's also some kind of humanoid figure in the distance. Julia is sus and like tries to like stop Hops, but Hops immediately like waddles over and shines flashlight directly at a Goliath man. However, the Goliath man seems to have been frozen to death, as they're kind of standing there or sitting there unmoving. And so Hops kind of pokes the Goliath and like is trying to get like the person to wake up, and is uncertain about like why they're not waking up. And so at this point, the party now all realizes Hops doesn't know what death is, and you guys are now in a ridiculously dangerous situation. So someone needs to explain to Hops what death was. And unfortunately, that person was Juliet. If you want to go ahead and explain what you said.
That's some bullshit. I'm just gonna say that right now. That was some bullshit. I should have not been the one to fucking explain death to Hops. Okay? At all. Because I think Juliet is the one who has killed the most people, like, in front of Hops, I should say.
Yeah, I
mean... Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I am the fucking worst person to do this shit. But Hops was like, well, why isn't he moving? Why can't we, like, you know, wake him up? And I'm like, Hops, he's dead. And she's like, what does that mean? And I was like, nobody fucking helped me. So I had to explain. I'm like, well, it means, like, he's not gonna wake up. Like, you know how we have to try and keep you warm because you're a frog and you'll freeze to death? Do you remember how we were so cold, at the hot springs? And it was bad. Well, his body couldn't handle it, and so he's, like, sleeping forever. And I should not have fucking said sleeping. I'm so stupid. Okay?
Yeah.
I was panicking because I didn't know what to say. And, and Hobbs was like, okay, well, can we at least tuck him in? And I was like, god damn it. Okay, yeah, sure. So Morgan, like, pulls out this fucking, sleeping bag, and Morgan's a fucking halfling, so we, like, cover his foot or something like that. I'm like, is that okay? And Hobbs is like, yeah, I guess. And I was like, okay, we need to get going because we gotta keep you warm. I don't want you to die. And she's like, okay. So I wrap my tail around her, and I pull out my foxfire so we can see and, like, keep her warm, kind of ish, as we're, like, looking around this cavern.
Yeah, so as that's happening, Essen's kind of searching around the room and finds writing in Primordial. And so the writing in Primordial looks like it's written by the Goliath man, and it basically says, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." And so Essen then kind of rolled an intelligence check and managed to figure out, like, wait, it's kind of a horrifying expression, but like if you've seen Avatar, it's similar to the Buddhist interpretation of that phrase. So if you're focused on the future, you're not going to change. You need to focus on like the here and now in order to like better yourselves. And so Essen kind of like notes this down, trying to figure out like why exactly this phrase was here in the cavern. As Boondock decides that, you know what if I just climb up the slide, fix this real easy. Boondock tries to start climbing up the slide, and as they kind of approach into the darkness, the Eye Guys show up, and they taunt Boondock. And so, like, the Eye Guys say, like, you know what, you mortals, like, always think you know everything. You can go ahead and climb up this slide and see what happens. As Boondock says, no, I'm not gonna do that then. If you're gonna act so, like, high and mighty about this whole thing, then no, I'm not gonna climb up the damn slide. And so the Ike... Yeah, it was a really fucking great moment. You know, so next, like, you guys clearly know more about this, why don't you, like, try and help us get out of here? As, like, the Eye Guys say, don't you get it, mortals, there is no way out, as the Eye Guys disappear back into the darkness. And as Juliet, who's now panic realizing, like, holy shit, Boondock's up there with the Eye Guys, she yells up the slide, and Boondock, though, is currently facing down at Juliet in, like, the Spider-Man pose, so apparently this place has, like, weird physics, so, because Boondock felt like they were climbing up, but sometime during the climb, they are now facing towards the ground in Juliet in the Spider-Man pose. Yep, so they kind of realize, like, okay, I guess we gotta go into the tunnel up ahead. Hop's kind of shines a light down, and Juliet's like, oh, okay, if we go into the darkness, maybe I can talk to the Eye Guys again. Maybe I can try and reason with them to see if we can, like, find out any more information about this weird place. And so they said, okay, so Hops, you, Essen, and Morgan stay back here. We'll yell if we need help, and then we'll just head down the hallway by ourselves. Which is always a great thing to hear. Let's go by ourselves. Yeah, so Juliet and Boondock start crawling down the hallway. And the hallway is getting more and more narrow and claustrophobic to the point where, like, Boondock's almost needing to crawl, and, like, Juliet's, like, on her hands and knees. And so, yeah, Juliet just straight up says, like, okay, there's gonna be probably a point where it's just gonna get more and more cramped then when we talk to the Eye Guys. Like, I don't want you to be stuck in the cave with, like, nothing to do when that happens, so I'm just gonna keep going on ahead by myself, which is always great to hear.
By myself.
In a D&D campaign. So, they split the party once more as Juliet goes by herself. And Juliet gets to talk to the Eye Guys. If you want to explain this next part.
I was so pissed at these stupid things. I hate them. I hate them. I really do. Even to this day, I still hate them. I'm like, okay, what do you want from us? Like, why are you doing this? Like, what is happening? And, of course, they just fucking talk in riddles and shit, and I'm just like, fucking assholes. Can you please just fucking, you know, talk to me here? Like, and I was just like, look. And they just kept saying, like, yeah, there's no way you can escape. You are your own worst enemies. Duh, 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 duh. And I'm like, look. Like, can I help you? Like, can I help you to help me? Like, and I was just trying anything for this fucker to talk, like, without riddles, and it wasn't doing anything. But as I was talking to them, these fucking weird undead fey creatures start bursting out of the ice around me, and I was like,
yeah. My original plan was, like, the fey creatures were going to attack you, but because you were by yourself in the hallway, I'm like, okay, I need to do something so, like, the party can get there, but I don't want, like, also, yeah, because I don't want to, like, have 5 of these weird fey undead things just immediately beating the shit out of Juliet, because, with the -1 con, she might not quite survive that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll just have them talk to the party. This is fine. This is totally fine. And so, they broke out of the ice, and they all kind of started just, like, looking at you, Juliet, as they all kind of, like, started just mumbling out, help, help, we all help you, in this really creepy and weird way.
Yeah, it was fucking creepy.
And so the rest of the party comes up. They're not quite attacking you yet, but they're all just kind of still saying, like, help, help, in, like, weird, creepy motions.
But they only spoke Sylvan, so only Boondock and I can understand them. So everyone else was like, do we trust them? Do we shoot them? And I'm
so
like, I don't know.
Insight check. And then you rolled, like, an 11 or something like that. And then, like, and so I said, as far as you know, they appear to want to help you. You don't know what their help is, though.
Yeah. And I think at that point, I was like, okay, why don't we have them dig, like, the way out or something. And so, somebody said home. Like, yeah, they need to dig us home. And they were like, oh, home? Now? And I'm like, no. And Boondock was like, yeah, just let them take us home. And I'm like,
when they said home, they kind of started pointing at you guys. Which was weird and confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was sus of the whole goddamn thing.
Yeah, and so, like, when you also tried to say
but anyway,
out,
so
you didn't understand what out was.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So finally I was like, alright, sure, I guess, because everyone else is like, yeah, no, they're cool. I'm like, no, they're not, but okay. So they held out, like, their weird fucking creepy-ass hands, like fucking Slenderman hands, and we were all like, hey, we take their hands, and then they start chanting in, like, this, like, ancient, like, language, and I don't think any of us understood it. I think Essen rolled high enough to realize, he didn't know what they were saying, but, like, it was an old, like, ancient language. And Hops was, like, in and out, glowing, in and out, and then, it went to darkness, and then we saw Hops' glow again, and all we saw was mannequins. Like, we looked around, we fucking turned into mannequins, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Oh my god.
I was so confused.
And so, yeah, no, and as you kind of, like, all start to, like, realize, like, you guys have no idea what you all look like. Every sort of memory relating to, like, what you guys look like is just wiped from your guys' minds. And so as you're kind of all looking around, you see the 6 of you in this cave as...
Now, there is only 5 of us in this cave. How is there a 6?
As a man with a deep voice says, oh god, friends, are you alright? As Alistair, who everyone remembers is the party's paladin, who's been with them since Phoenix Heart, all the way at the beginning, is now there with them.
Yeah, that was some fucking confusing bullshit.
At this point,
like,
everyone was screaming, just like trying to figure out, like, who the fuck is this? What the fuck is happening? What is going on?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Confusion. Yeah, so, my brain hurting.
Everyone just had like a headache at this point, as I kind of like we took a break there and then came back next week after I kind of explained to everyone. So, Alistair effectively, like, everyone knows Alistair as like the friendly paladin who's always helped them with all of their problems. And so Alistair, basically, if any of the party kind of thought about their problems in any sort of way, what would effectively happen is that they would kind of think, Alistair would say, like, oh, I've helped you with that problem. We had to talk about this. And then they would have to roll a wisdom saving throw, and if they rolled high, they wouldn't remember any sort of, like, words about any sort of that conversation whatsoever. And so, like, the entire thing was, like, trying to, like, figure out and suss out Alistair, because if Alistair was effectively, this person who's like fixed all of their problems, but not in any sort of like meaningful, conducive way. He's basically just made you guys forget about your problems. And so I also then told everyone, as just an added thing, because all of you are mannequins right now, you need to kind of look at each other and your memories, and like depending on your memories, which don't have any sort of bearing on like your guys' appearance, you need to decide what each other looks like. So based on like the personality of this person, so like with no defining features, how would you think they look like? As we kind of looked around the room and everyone starts like to get their bearings and trying to figure out like what the hell is like going on, it kind of looks like I believe Boondock looked at Morgan first, or actually no, I think. No,
I looked at Boondock first.
Yeah, Juliet.
I looked at Boondock first.
And Juliet could remember. Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, all he said was based off of Boondock's personality, not anything to do with like what they look like or anything like that. how would you think this character would look? And so Boondock is a very, like, no-nonsense sheriff from, like, the fucking lawless West. And I was like, okay, in D&D terms, I would think this guy would be a dwarf, a really big beard, like a lazy eye, like, that's what I would picture in my head. So an old dwarf cowboy with a big gray beard.
And so, like, yeah, Boondock kind of, like, turned into that older dwarf. The interesting part is that, like, Boondock actually is, like, I want to say under 20, something like that. Boondock is very young, but, like, the older dwarf cowboy that you made is, like, in his 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting, just based off of Boondock's personality. And so, you kind of kept going on around the room from, there, as Boondock was like, I guess this kind of makes sense. I know the western part feels right. I think the dwarf part, I mean, I guess that works. I think it was, Morgan looking at Hops next. And so Morgan looks at Hops and is like, okay, it's definitely like something related with like trash and stuff like that. Oh, and Morgan also remembers something important. Green, the color green was also there. So Morgan is like, oh, you're a goblin little trash witch. So like, she looked like just a tiny little goblin woman who's like, wearing basically just like, I'm assuming just like rags and just has like sticks in her very messy hair. Yeah. As Hops is still just like looking at herself in like the ice mirrors and just clicking her cheeks on and off. Next was Essen looking at Juliet, and this one was one of my favorites because like Essen was like, oh well, Juliet's a strong barmaid who's like couldn't like kick people out of like bars and stuff like that, so she's obviously this like half-orc woman. Who's like tall with just like the twin tail and braids and like wearing the Oktoberfest dress. As Juliet turns into this beefy orc woman.
I was so excited.
And for the first time in her life, Juliet feels complete as she sheds a single tear.
Yes, like finally.
Then Boondock looked at Morgan and just like, oh, like a very clean-cut sort of dude, just a very, like, nice, respectable-looking dude, probably maybe a half-orc, too, as Morgan also turned into a half-orc, and then, like, I think at this point, like, Morgan and Juliet just started, like, flexing each other.
Yeah, and like, the reflection of the eyes, too, were like, yeah. Orc bros, orc bros,
yeah,
orc
fucking
bros.
Both of you doing the fucking, like, Predator high five. Now, here was my favorite one, because I asked Hops' player, okay, so what would you think then based on this description what Essen looks like? And so Hops' player then countered, well, it wouldn't just be like that description, it would be Hops' perspective of that description and what Hops thinks any of those words mean. And so, like, that one kind of broke our fucking brains for a little bit as, like, Hops is like, well, I think it wouldn't be, like, she doesn't have too good of a memory right now, so I think it's just, like, vague, tiny details of, like, and, like, associations she's made, and so, like, what are things Hops remembers? Oh, Hops remembers hiding in Essen's robes and stuff like that, like, there's always, like, flowy robes around her eye level. What else does Hops remember? Oh, Hops has a strong association with the baptism scene, so, Hops also associates Essen with, angels and stuff, and so, like, eventually, Hops came up with a description. Essen suddenly looked like, this giant eyeball that was, like, attached to a sheet that just had, like, it was basically just a sheet with an eyeball on it, as, like, Essen's just kind of, like, screaming as this eldritch abomination. I believe the eyeball was also crying because, like, Hops at one point, like, associated Essen with, like, water because of the baptism, and so, like, the eye just started, like, fucking, like, just, like, leaking out water in this, like, horrible event.
This was probably, like, one of the weirdest fucking things that has happened to me in D&D, I'm not gonna lie. This scene.
Yeah. And so, like, Essen's just like, what the hell are my legs? What the hell are my legs? What are my arms? And so Hops is like, oh, you had, like, legs and arms? As Hops then adds, two fucking, like, really long, like, thin frog arms and thin frog legs to this horrible sheet. It just looks like this absolute monstrosity. And honestly, I was really jealous because I was trying to set up this, like, eldritch horror atmosphere, but then Hops' player fucking, like, upstaged me by creating the most horrifying thing I've ever heard in my goddamn life. Yeah.
For real.
So Essen was just screaming, because, like, he knew that wasn't, like, right, but also, like, couldn't quite figure out what he looked like as he's just, like, panicking and screaming. His Hops is like, no, that's what you look like. It's fine, right? It's cool. Oh my fucking god.
I think at one point, didn't Essen even like, where are my internal organs? And she's like, oh, you need those too?
No!
And all of us were like, no!
Oh my god, that could have gone from bad to worse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, Hops very proudly decides to pick Essen up by their sheet body and wrap them up like a cape around them. Oh man. As you guys continue on with Alistair, who kind of looks like an amalgamation of, like, he kind of looks like Anduin, just like, you know, this very kind of generic looking, like, somewhat muscular dude with, like, long hair, red skin, because I believe you also kind of tossed in the idea he was a fire genasi. Yeah, and so you guys kind of continued onwards, and as you guys continued onwards, you found another room at the end of the hallway with a locked door with 5 odd-shaped keyholes and an open corridor. So, Juliet tried to pick the lock, I think, but, like, couldn't because it's the weird keyholes and stuff like that, so, like, clearly there's only one way to go.
So instead, I decided, hey, I'm going to crumple up Essen and shove him underneath the door.
Essen screaming, please don't.
Yeah, and then Alistair was like, hey, we talked about this, we talked about your impulsiveness, and I, which is, you know what's really funny? I have a -1 in wisdom, I think.
Roll nat 20.
And I still rolled really high. Oh, I did roll a nat 20.
You don't remember
and I was like,
goddamn word, and you're super sus of Alistair immediately.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember shit about that. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah. And so, like, you're kind of getting up in Alistair's face. I think Boondock's calming you down, like, and Alistair's kind of mentioning, like, yeah, no, this place is weird. It's clearly designed to, like, pit us all against each other. We need to all work together if we need to get out of here, alright? And so, all of you guys, I think at this point, like, Alistair tries to work out a plan with Boondock, but, like, Juliet's just like, fuck no, I'm not working out a plan with you, Alistair, and immediately just, like, goes down the hallway.
Yeah, so there's 2 doors. One of the doors had like 5 keyholes in it, and there was a door next to it that was like completely open. And since nobody wanted to listen to me because I was so fucking sus and I was doing a pretty shit job of convincing them to be sus, I was like, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm just gonna head out myself because, you know, splitting up the party.
Yep, so you immediately head out by yourself. And as you continued onwards, and this should probably be like the last thing we cover is the Juliet room. Yeah, so as you continue onwards, you by yourself, you then saw like this wall of ice in front of you and a hallway to your left, and you could see your reflection in the wall of ice. And as you kind of like walked up to your reflection, you kind of like stuck your hand out, and like your reflection. Oh no, what was it?
No, I punched.
Oh, right.
I punched it.
Yeah.
I punched the wall.
Up and you immediately punched the wall, and as you punched the wall, your reflection didn't punch back. And so you realized, oh no, there's another person on the other side of this wall, huh? As everyone else then catches up with you, and you're like, everyone stay back from the wall. But of course, Boondock immediately just like, nope, I'm gonna go right up to the wall. Yeah, so Boondock goes over, though. His reflection, or their reflection's normal. As they kind of look at themselves, and, like, they see that your reflection's odd and weird, and it's kind of like, it almost looks like someone's made, like, a wax version of Juliet, but some of the features are, like, off, like, one of the eyes is lower than it should be, some of, like, your limbs are kind of, like, weird and misshapen, it's... Yeah, the
nose is off, everything.
Yeah. like someone made you out of Play-Doh and they started twisting around the pieces. Yeah, and so you're kind of like panicked and concerned about this as you look down like the hallway, and there appears to be like this large hallway that's leading to the end of a room. And at the end of this hallway, it seems to be like some kind of like open door, and in the middle of the hallway are 3 beams of light. And so your reflection's kind of looking at you through like the wall of ice between you two, and your reflection then looks at you and then takes off down the hallway. As you're like, fuck no, I'm not gonna let my reflection beat me to the end of this hallway. I'm gonna fucking race it.
Yeah, because I'm stupid.
So you sprint down the hallway, keeping pace with your reflection, and as both of you cross the first beam of light, you both trigger the trap, and ice shoots out at both of you, making you both take some a light amount of damage. And so Juliet.
I thought it was just one side. I thought it was just my side that actually had the traps. The other one was just kind of like, haha,
it was
fuck
both
you.
sides, and both you and your reflection took the damage. Yeah. And
oh,
so,
gotcha.
The party's like, okay, Juliet, you need to like stop and like think about this. It's clearly like the booby trapped hallway. As your reflection then looks at you, flips you off, and then continues down the hallway. And Juliet's like, oh hell no, and immediately takes off towards the second beam of light. You guys both hit the second beam of light and take a significant amount more of damage. As these ice spikes hit out, they're much larger this time. And so at this point, like, Juliet's like, okay, this probably isn't the greatest idea to go into, like, the third spikes. I'm gonna take a lot of damage if I do. So you finally have the bright idea, like, what if I decide to fake out my reflection? So you decide to play chicken with it and, like, start running over towards the last beam of light, but you stop at the last second. So only your reflection crosses the third beam of light as massive spikes come out from the walls and blast towards the ice wall separating you two. Now, the spikes, though, are large enough that it destroys the wall between you two. And now your reflection can see where you are as it slowly starts to approach you.
Yeah. But as it does that, it was, like, mad, and, it started to say, like, no one will take away my freedom, and I was like, the fuck are you talking about? But as I was looking at my reflection, the eyes were turning into cat slits, and I'm like, wait, that's weird. Orcs don't do that. And I was like, oh, wait a second. So I rolled a fucking wisdom saving throw. I'm like, I'm not an orc. I'm a kitsune. And then I changed back into my normal self. And then, but so did my reflection. I'm like, oh, I'm not tall anymore.
I wanted to be ripped.
Okay.
I had abs, damn it. I had abs.
I did. I had abs.
Oh my god. Yeah, so Juliet sheds a single tear for the loss of her idealized form. Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, as the reflection's kind of staring at you as you're it's saying like, no, taking away my freedom. We did try to calm it down. You want to explain what you did to calm it down?
I crashed and burned, that's what happened. So I was like, okay, look, no one's gonna take away your freedom, okay? I get it. I was like, oh, I see, it's a reflection of myself because I don't trust anybody and everyone's gonna take away my freedom. I understand now. And she was like, you can't trust anyone. I can't trust anyone. And I was like, well, what about Cass? And I forgot I'm pissed at Cass, and that's the one thing I shouldn't have fucking said because I'm stupid.
Yeah, and so the reflection very specifically was like also pissed at Cass, and that was because your main source of trauma right now. And so like the reflection, it was just
now.
Your main source of reflection back then. Sorry. And so like your reflection just immediately, like, again, cat-like slits with the eyes as it's just like, no, Cass is not our friend. Cass betrayed me. Cass is the worst. As your reflection then leaps at you, trying to attack you as everyone rolls initiative. Oh my fucking god.
Yeah, I didn't think that one through. I don't think a lot of things through.
Yeah, it was literally like the one thing you shouldn't have said. Oh man.
I forgot my own trauma,
yeah,
okay?
So during the fight, Morgan tries to go over to defend you with his like powerful orc body. He takes a big fist and tries to punch Juliet, or the fake Juliet. But as he does, he like whiffs violently and realizes like, I really don't know how to punch. Why do I not know how to punch? I feel like I should be able to use this better. As he slowly realizes like, wait, I'm a halfling, aren't I? As he also pops back into his halfling form, also saddened by the loss of his huge strong muscles.
One day, Morgan. One day, we will become orc bros again.
Character goals: to become orc. Oh man. Yeah, so he goes back to his halfling form and starts pulling out his gun, starts shooting up the fake Juliet. And then goes over to Hops's turn, and Alistair's like, okay, Hops, hang back and let us all, the rest of us, handle this problem. You just stay there where it's safe. And Juliet's like, no, come over here and help me. Which one of these is your godmother, and which one of these is a fucking sus piece of shit? And so Alistair's like yelling back at you, like, Hops is a child. Why are you letting her go into battle? And so as you're having this like back and forth, Hops doesn't know who to trust and just like plops herself and onto the ground. Oh
yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so eventually though, like you're kind of getting low on health, so like you decide to fucking like run backwards. As
Unfortunately.
Boondock and Essen try to help in what ways they can. During that combat, though, as you're running backwards, you kind of look at Essen and like, weren't you blue? As Essen finally realizes, like, wait a second, I'm an air genasi, and pops back into his genasi form. As he does, like, he's so grateful to be out of that horrible eldritch form that he just like scoops up Juliet in a big kiss.
Yeah, and I was like, bro, this is not the time!
Yeah, so you run backwards, Alistair is like, okay, let me at least, like, heal your wounds and stuff like that, and you're like, fuck no!
I said fuck
I'm good,
no.
I'll fucking...
I was bleeding profusely.
It's cool, I'll fucking, like, and you, like, spit in your hand and try and rub spit in the wound as it's, like, you're actively, like, bleeding from the side. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it's fine, get away.
Yeah, because the fake Juliet was actually, like, had a monster stat block and was, like, going more, like, monstrous and horrifying, and the more you guys fought it. So, yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. Yeah, the fake Juliet then tried to stab Morgan, and I revealed that his gauntlet was, had a little bit of a side effect to it. Anytime he used the gauntlet to give himself a nat 20 or give an enemy a nat 1, he could, the gauntlet is cursed so that, it also gives then an enemy a nat 1 on him, or one of his friends, or, gives, him a natural 1 on one of his attack rolls. And so basically, like, yeah, no, balance has to be restored. So anytime he uses it to get a nat 20, an enemy gets a nat 20. So, the fucking, fake Juliet gets a nat 20 with one of her attacks. And so I'm like, alright, time to roll some big boy damage. It was like fucking like 8d8. And I remember this distinctly, because the fucking roll was natural 1, natural 1, natural 1, natural 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. In that order.
Get fucked. That's so funny.
It was astronomical, the odds of me rolling that. Especially in that order, too. My god.
What if you rolled
That
all
would've
nat
been-
ones?
oh my
I would have
God.
lost my goddamn mind.
But yeah, no. And so, like, the fucking thing gets, like, this wild hit, but, like, it does basically nothing against Morgan. And then it takes, like, one more actual attack, the fucking normal against, like, Essen or, like, Juliet. And, like, on one of its normal attacks, it did more damage than with the crit. And, like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh my fucking god. Yeah.
It
but,
hurty.
Juliet then ran back over and eventually managed to get the killing blow on the fake Juliet. If you want to explain this next part. Yeah.
I beheaded her. I beheaded myself. I'm like, that's pretty sick, not gonna lie. And everyone's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, you know, that's cool. I get to see myself die. Like,
You also
sick.
said, like, if I die that way, I want it to be as badass as that. And Essen just, like,
Yeah, for real.
going, like, slightly more pale as you're speaking. He's like, yeah, cool, very cool, very, very cool. As all this is happening, you finally realize that, like, wait, isn't Boondock supposed to be taller? As Boondock finally transforms back into a satyr. As Hops also realizes, like, wait, when she was in the baptism, Essen held her up, so she had, like, a really tall point of view, and so, like, she's like, well, I'm supposed to be tall too, aren't I? As Hops also gains ridiculously long legs and sprouts up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the same
Yeah.
Hop's body, but just her feet, her legs were just like fucking like all of 11 feet long or something like that. It was really stupid.
It was
looked like
ridiculous.
She was on stilts. My
It was
God.
still funny.
So everyone is basically back to normal except for Hops, who's now extremely tall. As the party then kind of looks at Alistair and like, as Alistair tries to still heal, you're still like, no, you were just fucking like sus. I don't even know if you're a part of this party to begin with. As like,
I also want to mention this. So back when we defeated the Wyverns, this is what sold everybody like, hey, maybe this is why Alistair isn't real, and maybe we should trust Juliet, which nobody ever fucking does. Cough cough. Anyway, Hops made 5 friendship bracelets out of the Wyverns' bodies. Who doesn't have a friendship bracelet? Alistair. Man. I was like,
Yeah, so at this point, like, that's actually enough proof to kind of, like, start bringing in some suspicion and stuff like that. And as Boondock then has a kind of a bit of a brain blast, which was, this is really interesting because, like, Boondock made this character decision and said this out loud, and I didn't have this planned out, but as soon as they said it, I'm like, yes, that's becoming a part of the plot now, absolutely. Because Boondock then said, wait, there was actually 6 of us when we came into the cave, wasn't there? Frank, my dog, was with us. As they kind of say, I would appreciate it if all of you guys didn't fucking kill my dog here. As I said that, yeah, Alistair turns back into Frank.
Yeah. We were about to kill your dog, dude. Come on.
Yeah, no. So, you guys then, loot the body of the fake Juliet with all your bodies.
I looted the body of my own body, okay? Because no one else was like, what the fuck? Why are you looting your own body? I'm like, maybe I have good shit. I don't know. And I find a red key. Like a red glowing key.
Yeah. And as you do, the party is now transported back into the original room. With one of the keys in the keyhole being filled in. And so, as that happens, the party kind of realizes, like, oh, whoever goes into the room first, maybe the rooms are based around them, and maybe we need to get 4 more keys for the 4 of us in the party. And yeah, I think that's where we should end it for this little episode here. Yeah, next time we're gonna get to explain everyone else's rooms, and also, you know, the big secret of why the hell all of this is happening, and why the hell, like, these rooms can appear out of absolutely fucking nowhere. But yeah, so, thank you all for listening to another episode of PhoenixChat. If you want to support us, the best way to do so would be to subscribe to our Patreon. If you can't do that, then heading to our Instagram page, following us on there, liking all of our stuff there, would seriously help us out a lot. Yeah. Any closing comments, Izzy?
I shits. Still don't trust them, even though I know what they are now. I still don't like them. That's it. That's the end of my spiel. PhoenixChat, here we go. Alright, goodbye.